Vladimir Putin began 2025 with what he believed was a clear, achievable plan. He sought to reshape the world order, weaken NATO, secure permanent territorial gains from Ukraine. A central part of his strategy hinged on the assumption that the West was divided, especially with a new U.S. administration. He gambled he could exploit fractures in the transatlantic alliance through diplomatic maneuvering and military pressure. But this grand strategy, built on miscalculation, did not unfold as he envisioned. Moves meant to break NATO instead unified it, leaving Russia isolated and facing unforeseen consequences. Putin wanted a multipolar world to reclaim dominant geopolitical status and dominate Eastern Europe and Central Asia. He believed he could manipulate diplomacy, especially with Donald Trump, whom he saw as anti-NATO. He thought this would let him dictate peace in Ukraine, end Ukraine's sovereignty, and cement control over annexed territories. Rather than breaking NATO, Putin proved its relevance and capability. His strategy did not create a Russian-led order, instead deepening Russia's economic struggles, deepening Russia's military struggles, and strengthening his adversary's resolve. One of the two main pillars of Vladimir Putin's strategy in 2025 has been the cynical manipulation of peace negotiations. Throughout the year, talk of ending the war in Ukraine high-level meetings offering brief glimmers of hope. Putin engaged world leaders, including a face-to-face summit with President Trump in Alaska. Those talks were a facade of willingness to negotiate meant to thaw relations and portray Russia as reasonable. Behind that veneer, Putin remained utterly inflexible, blocking any real progress toward peace. In every negotiation, he presented the same maximalist demands: not compromise, capitulation. He demanded the West cease all military aid to Ukraine, a move that would leave Ukraine defenseless and let Russia's attrition strategy succeed. He demanded a halt to Ukrainian mobilization and a severe reduction in Ukraine's armed forces, ensuring it couldn't defend against future attacks. These demands were impossible for Ukraine or its allies to accept. The most egregious demand after Alaska, Ukraine must cede Luhansk, Donetsk. Having failed to fully seize them on the battlefield, Putin tried to win them at the negotiating table. He knows Zelensky can't surrender sovereign territory. The Ukrainian constitution forbids it. With his diplomatic efforts designed to stall and deceive, Vladimir Putin escalated a second major course of action: direct military provocations against NATO members. September 2025 became a pivotal month, not for events inside Ukraine, but for reckless Russian actions along NATO's eastern flank. These were deliberate tests of the alliance's reflexes, rules of engagement, and political will. Putin wanted to see how far he could push, how much he could get away with, and whether he could create fear and hesitation by demonstrating Russia's military presence on NATO's doorstep. The incursions began on September 10th, when Russia sent a wave of 19 drones into Polish airspace. Some were shot down, posing no immediate strategic threat, but the violation of sovereignty was clear. Repeated provocations followed over the Baltic Sea. On September 14th, Sweden and Denmark scrambled jets to intercept two Russian Su-30 fighters armed with anti-radiation missiles and an Il-20 intelligence aircraft flying in neutral airspace. These heavily armed aircraft were meant to intimidate Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. The button-pushing continued. The same day, a Russian Geran drone entered Romanian airspace. A week later, on September 21st, Germany and Sweden scrambled jets to escort another Il-20 spy plane away. The most direct challenge came on September 19th, when three Russian MiG-31S deviated into Estonian airspace. They failed to respond to warnings, prompting Allied jets to be airborne within 12 minutes to escort them out. If Vladimir Putin had hoped for a timid or fractured response to his provocations, he was sorely mistaken. The reaction from NATO was anything but weak. The alliance did not just issue verbal condemnations, it took immediate, tangible action to counter the Russian threat. The rapid and coordinated response to the incursions, particularly the one over Estonia, served as a key test that proved NATO's ability to react to a threat in mere minutes. This demonstration of readiness was the first sign that Putin's plan was backfiring. Instead of sowing division, his actions had triggered a display of robust European solidarity and resolve that caught the Kremlin off guard. In the immediate aftermath of the drone incursion into Poland, NATO launched a new initiative called Eastern Sentry. Announced by Secretary General Mark Rutte and Supreme Allied Commander Europe General Alexis G. Grinkowicz. This program is designed to significantly strengthen NATO's defensive posture across its entire eastern flank. The plan moves beyond the existing multinational battle groups in countries like Poland, the Baltic states. It creates an integrated system of air and missile defense linking assets across the region to provide rapid, supplementary support to any member nation that comes under aerial threat from Russia. This shows that nations like Estonia and Latvia will not be left to fend for themselves. The unity behind Eastern Sentry was striking. Several key allies immediately committed significant military assets to the program, placing them at the direct disposal of the Supreme Allied Commander. France pledged a trio of its advanced Rafale fighter jets. Germany offered 4 of its Eurofighters. The United Kingdom committed Typhoon jets. Poland provided a military transport aircraft. Denmark promised to contribute fighter jets. Italy promised to contribute fighter jets. The Czech Republic made commitments. Spain made commitments. Sweden made commitments. Beyond the immediate military deployments under the Eastern Sentry program, NATO delivered a stern and unambiguous political message that directly countered Putin's narrative. In an official statement addressing the recent airspace violations, the alliance declared the incursions part of a clear pattern of aggressive behavior, dismissing Russia's denials as baseless. The statement reaffirmed NATO's core principles and left no doubt about its collective will to defend itself. For Putin, who'd hoped to find cracks in the alliance, the unified message was a diplomatic and strategic setback. The statement's language was deliberately forceful. It warned, Russia should be in no doubt. NATO and allies will employ, in accordance with international law, all necessary military tools, non-military tools to defend and deter threats from all directions. The phrase, all necessary military tools, was significant, lending credence to calls from some members to shoot down Russian aircraft that violate NATO airspace in the future. This was not a slap on the wrist. It was a threat of escalation, signaling NATO's patience was wearing thin and rules of engagement could change. Crucially, the statement ended by reaffirming Article 5. Our commitment to Article 5 is ironclad. This was the message Putin least wanted. Article 5 is NATO's cornerstone, declaring an attack on one is an attack on all. By stressing its ironclad nature, the alliance confirmed all members, including the US, would respond collectively. While NATO was busy reinforcing its external defenses, the consequences of Putin's strategy began to eat away at Russia from within. A key part of Putin's long war calculation was his belief in the resilience of Russia's economy, which he had transformed into a military-industrial machine. For a time, this strategy seemed to work. Fueled by massive state funding and unlimited credit, Russia posted impressive growth, such as the 4.3% GDP figure for 2024. This created an illusion of strength and prosperity. However, a wartime economy is fundamentally unsustainable. The rapid, artificial growth of the military-industrial complex came at a huge cost to other sectors.
As one analyst put it, the defense sector's overgrowth depresses every other sector and guarantees a crisis when war spending drops.
The single-minded focus on producing tanks, missiles, ammunition starved civilian industries of investment, labor, and resources. This left a distorted, brittle economy dependent on continued conflict. The economic party of 2023-2024 is over. Putin's refusal to engage in serious peace talks is a self-inflicted wound. His push for perpetual war has become an albatross around Russia's neck. The initial boom has given way to serious strain. Kremlin commentary has shifted. State media now claims a third world war is already underway, but one fought economically. Russia is fighting attrition on battlefields and within its treasury. For NATO, that's a strategic advantage. They don't need a direct full-scale defeat, if Russia's policies will cripple it from within. By supporting Ukraine and shoring up defenses, NATO can wait for Putin to exhaust his resources. The longer the war continues, the more Russia's long-term potential erodes, leaving a hollowed-out shell. Putin may plan future conflicts, but he risks being defeated by his own ruinous economic strategy.